So, hello and welcome to another episode with me and Prad. Prad, it's been a while. How have you been?
Yeah, pretty good. Just busy with a lot of things, some coach education courses and attending some courses myself, and then the usual, just waiting, like a lot of us, for things to start over here with Indian football.
Okay, now it started and quarter is over. Quarter of the season in the ISL is over. The biggest talking point, fresh from yesterday's match, is Bengaluru FC. The coach has gone after the players. Well deserved to the players, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't manage to catch the game. I was traveling, so I just caught snippets of it. But yeah, I mean, the performance is not up to what you'd expect, and I think it's just one of those things that's been coming, and it's been coming for a while, not just with Bengaluru, but with a lot of teams. And I think Bengaluru just epitomized it. I was talking to someone the other day. I think you've got players who've become too comfortable at clubs where they're earning amounts which, frankly, if you look at the comparison with players in the I League or players in second division and other tiers of Indian football, these players probably don't justify that because there isn't that tenfold difference with them. And when you're in that kind of comfort zone, and you look at these kind of performances, and I think we're going to see a lot more of that from certain teams unless they go out and refresh and shake up the whole way that they have their squads set up in a way.
Yeah, so it just looks before the start of the season, we all thought, oh, finally BFC are going to have to, going to give a go again. A couple of years they've not been there. They spend money. They've recruited, at least from a foreign perspective, two good players. I'm always a big fan of Prabir Das as well. But it looks like a very disjointed team. It looks like a team that is struggling to find its way, and maybe a team that is 1 year older, and that's a big problem.
Yeah, I think it's definitely age is catching up with certain players, and I think if you look at it over the years, you always have to look at your competitors. If you look at some of the top young Indian players, I mean, where they've migrated to in the past, Bengaluru FC was always known for the top youngsters coming, making a beeline almost to that club. And it started with the likes of Udanta almost 10 years ago, and then your Daniels, Nishus, etc., and it can continued all the way up to like your Suresh's, I suppose. But if you look at it recently, if you look at the young performers coming out, they're at Mumbai's now, they're at Kerala Blasters, or they're at an Odisha or other clubs. And obviously, once they have a couple of good seasons, they end up at ATK Mohun Bagan. But they're not getting the cream of the youngest bunch. And as you said, though, the experienced ones are getting that extra year older. And I think there's too many players in a comfort zone over there. But let's be honest. I mean, a lot of us who watched the Durand Cup didn't feel that they were playing great football. I mean, they were a tournament. It was a preseason tournament, and felt that if they continue playing that way, then they're going to struggle in the league. And it's come on to that, I think, at the moment.
Yeah, when you look at it, how do you correct this? Because there is nothing really that I can see the coach doing. Like, it's not the lack of effort, but I don't know. It just doesn't feel like there is a lot he can do other than maybe get 5% more from them at most, and I don't know if that is enough. It's not like
You
a
know,
very the team on the 11 on the field is not very cohesive.
when I heard the press conference, the statement, and when I read some of the things you had tweeted about, but I think, look, at this stage of the season where they are, and with the games coming up, I think they've got to play DK Mohun Bagan, they've got IFC Goa to play, they've got some tough rounds of fixtures coming up. So you're going to go out and put that kind of a statement out. End of the day, he came in early, had a chance to recruit, had a chance to look at these players over the last couple of seasons. I think he's had a fair eye on the ISL, and he's had the Durand Cup as well. So maybe there's certain foreign players that could have helped to make him more cohesive or more to his style of play. And similarly with the Indian players, I mean, it's a squad that's been crying out for being refreshed for a couple of years, not just now. So you did mention something about the January window, so let's see how active they are. But then I think by January it could be a little bit too late. But top six, so they could easily finish top six by a turnaround of results. And if you do refresh the squad proper way in January, then no reason why they can't be challenging again. That's just the nature of the ISL this season.
I mean, how much are you going to change in January anyway from any team? And to be fair, they have the three captains of the national team in their ranks. And Sandesh had a nightmare yesterday against Mumbai.
I mean, that doesn't hold for much. The whole three captains thing. I mean, they got to show up on the field. It's not. It's almost like there's self-destruction going on sometimes. You talk about three captains. Is that a good thing or is that a bad thing? You've got possibly then three who want to be alpha at that club, and that's not helping. Look, if you look at the performances over the course of the season, you've seen some games where goalkeepers definitely cost them. We've seen yesterday where Sandesh was culpable for one of the goals, not obviously blaming the entirety on him or the way their season is, and Sunil hasn't fired yet. So captain is just something that was given, and there's other reasons why it's bandied about the captain's armband, but performances on the team wise, none of them you could say so far have given a sort of performance of worthy of even being in the national team, if you'd be honest about it.
Yeah. So just shift gears. Couple of years ago, not maybe more than 2 years ago, you told me your pick for the player of the year was Apuya, a young player of the year to watch out for. Subsequently became one of the best midfielders in India. And now he seems to have added goals to his game this year. Or at least he's getting into positions to score goals more and more. Good evolution under Des.
Yeah, I think massive credit to Des Buckingham in terms of how he's developing a team as well as the players, and developing the Indian players. You look at Apoy has added a little bit more to his game. He scored that absolute screamer for Northeast United, and he's been consistent in a certain kind of role that he was asked to play initially. But that's what you want to see, the evolution of players. Now, I think, having spoken to the kid last season and spoken to him a couple of times, he wants to get better and he wants to add more to his game and not just be that sort of player who just sits in front of the back four and then gets the ball and distributes it sideways, kind of. And not just Apuya. I think if you look at Bipin, where was everyone saying, all right, that's just a blip, it's one season, is he going to continue? He's kicked on from there. I think you look at Chante, who over the years people have said, he's not consistent, he's got to add goals, he's got to improve his crossing. He's coming with the right mindset. Again, I spoke to him at the start of the season, post-match, and he seems motivated to want to work on specifics. So it's obviously the coaching staff, the guy like Anthony Fernandez and Des Buckingham, all the staff over there are working on individually improving the individuals, which collectively obviously improves their team. And I think they're playing some fantastic football in terms of entertainment. I think they're really good to watch. And they're selling out the stadium now in Mumbai. So it's a team on the up, and credit to the players as well as the staff over there. They're doing a fantastic job.
Yeah, speaking of entertainment, the other really entertaining team is Kerala Blasters, because you never really know what you're going to get from them, but they do score a lot of goals. When they do score, I think Kaliuni is a top scorer, right? Yeah, he is the top scorer. So how do you see that team? Because there's a little bit Jekyll and Hyde sometimes.
And sometimes I think they always have been. I think that's just, you describe them in one word. It's just they've not been. Last year was probably that season where a lot of people would say they overachieved, and this season they started off and you think, okay, they're building on it. But if you look at it, you scratch the surface a little bit, you got to realize that somebody you signed as a defensive midfielder in Kaliujny is your top scorer. It's not necessarily a good thing. So I think they need more from the guys who they've signed to score the goals, the strikers. And defensively, I think Ivan would be concerned about it, the number of goals that they've conceded and the manner in which the goals are conceded. Because I think last year one of their strengths was how solid they were defensively. They were tough to break down. So I think that'll be the concern. Because I think over the course of the season, teams that can keep clean sheets, look, you don't have to be the most entertaining. At the moment, I think Hyderabad, they'll put their hands up and say they're not the most entertaining. But what counts, they're top of the table. And if you look at the history in a way, recent history, Jamshedpur last year, not the most entertaining, but end of the day, what counts is at the end of the season what you pick up in terms of silverware.
I have to say, Rahul KP has been really exciting player for me. Probably a little more end product we need from him, but he does play the kind of football that is very enjoyable to be to the eyes, right?
Play sevens football, you're saying?
Yeah, yeah. You know what? The first match that I saw this season was Northeast versus Bengaluru, and they had
Yep.
Jitin and Emil Benny also maybe, but mostly Jitin.
Yep.
Just Jitin only, right? And it's
Yeah.
yeah. So the
MS, yeah.
moment he touched the ball, like I was not sure who he was because you don't see them properly, right? He was running somewhere. The moment he touched the ball, I was like, "Huh, he is the seventh player," because the way he runs, the show movement, it's so evident. But yeah, again, he did not have end product that day. Had he had end product, BFC would have lost that game as well. He did get into some good positions.
Yeah, and I think that's it. Look, it's a positive, and there's been so many years where they were fighting against the fact that sevens is bad for football, etc. But just like futsal or just like other forms of the game, I think it's got to be encouraged. And you see certain things which you don't get from academy players. Academy players are very unidimensional in the way they play and the way they perform. And I think the game needs it. You need the Rahul KPs, you need the Emil Bennies, you need the Sahals. Obviously there are the Apuyas and the others who come through. You could say more of a, what's been the norm in Indian football over the last couple of years, which is academy, AFF, etc. But I think you need a blend of both of them because they do add a certain spark to it. But 100% agree with you. I mean, I think again we all get carried away. You had one good performance at night against FC Goa, and there's a little bit more end product coming towards it at the game, but you need consistency. And when we keep saying that, it's only he scored some great goal on the counter attack against Bengaluru a few years ago. He did it again, I think, last season. But once, twice a season isn't good enough. You got to start putting in 10, 15 performances because the league's still a short league. So unless you're going to put in at least 10, 15, that's not good enough for players who want to be seen as national team players and regulars in that way.
Speaking of consistency, Hyderabad FC, do you see the way they've transitioned from last year to this year? A little bit more solid, maybe not as fluid as before. Is this how do you see their evolution under the coach? It's still, unbeaten at the top of the table, looks really, really good. Probably the best team in the league.
Yeah, I think look, a lot of the time we don't give credit to teams that are well organized, well drilled, and defensively sound. And another coach who's working wonders with Indian players. If you look at how Yasir has developed, you look at how I love the way, like, even when they have a poor performance, if let's say, for example, Sana had a poor game against Mumbai, players put their hands up, accept responsibility, and the coach, the way he gets them back for the next game, trusts them to deliver. So there's a lot of trust around that club in the we talk about trust the process. There's that. They definitely have a way that they believe they're going to go about and how they're going to approach the season. And it's almost as if you look at their team and you could say they're not peaked yet. And almost as if they've planned and the way they're setting up is to peak around January. And that's probably a scary proposition for the others. And I think if they can be smart in the transfer market and pick up a few players, and because they have some decent assets on their book, they've got a lot of good young players, and that's, I think, their strength. That they could let an Ashik go over the years, they could let a Ashish Rai go, and Aniket Jadhav, and they brought in players who can step up. And I think that's the trick of a good club, is knowing when to let go of certain players who become a little bit too comfortable there or want that big paycheck. Let them go somewhere else and get somebody who's hungry. And it brings us back to what initially we spoke about with Bengaluru. Even Hyderabad and Nixon have their foreigners who are a few years older, but what they've done is they've recruited well in terms of getting younger foreigners like Severio and Porra, and then they've got the experience of an Ode and a Bart. So I think they're very, and Zhao especially. So I think they're clever in that way in terms of how they bring in and youngsters and have that blend of a few, seasoned senior pros. Last year they had Shovik. They've got a good mix there, which I think is key for dressing room as well as on the field.
So I always think for you, Mark, it just seems like you think the coach is the best they have.
Yeah, I think Manolo Marquez is. It's just overall look. There's coaches who play good football, and then everyone rants and raves about it because they put together a beautiful game one day, or one season, and then there's people who get criticized for, it's not the most attractive football, but it gets results. But I think you've got to look at the whole picture sometimes in terms of we know in football the teams that spend the most are going to win, and that typically happens across the world and even in the ISL. But from an Indian football point of view, you've got to look at which coaches are developing players. And if you look at young players who've come through certain clubs, I think that's a good mark of the coach as well. And then when you can develop the players as well as win, I mean, you're ticking all the boxes. And I think another thing, just a point for that is you look at them, you've got to trust, I think, give credit to some of the managements as well of these clubs, because typically in the ISL or in a lot of the leagues, if you don't win, owners are under, well, whatever, they want to bring somebody else in. They want to change, they want to sack coaches. And if you didn't make top four, that was almost a benchmark that the coach needs to go bring someone else in, especially when it's top 4 out of 10 or 11 teams. But if you look at Mumbai, Des didn't make the top 4. Season after they won it, retained him. Manolo Marquez, first season, didn't make the top 4, but they retained him. And you looked at the benefits that the teams are getting from having consistency. You keep the coaching staff for a while. And again, bringing the whole conversation back to it, would BFC have been better off under Marco now than with a complete sort of reboot? So, and I think that's where you'd see the clubs again. Kerala Blasters, consistency, coach from last season, a lot of players from last season. They look like contenders. One with ATK Mohun Bagan. I think clubs have to start seeing that. We've started to see players being signed on longer term contracts and being kept there. I think there's got to be a lot more trust as well with the coaches and the staff at clubs as well.
You mentioned one. ATK Mohun they're doing well, but I feel like they're not very convincing. They give themselves a problem and then sort of put the rabbit out of the hat at the end of the game. But I don't know how long they can do it, but they do have an excellent team. They dominate most of the position also when they do play. Maybe at the final third, they need a little bit more spark other than Liston.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, and to put it in a sort of simple South Indian way, instead of taking the food and eating it this way, they sort of go around that way and try and eat it. And at the moment it's working. The food's still ending up in the mouth, but it can get messy at times. And I think it's just the way they want. One wants to play a certain way of football. He believes in playing in a certain way, and it takes time, I think, to get the players, especially the younger Indian players, to understand what's expected of them and how he wants them to perform is going to take a little bit of time. I think his foreigners have bailed them out on a couple of times, but that's why you have a top team. That's why you sign the likes of Yanni Kauko and Dimi Petratos or Hugo Bumo. You have some of the top foreign players in the league. And you also have some of the top Indian players in the likes of, I think, Liston, Ashik, Ashish Manvir. You've got some really, really good, again, you talk about, they're not captains of the Indian team, but with your Pritham Kotas, with your, Lenny's over there, you've got that experience. You've got Deepak Tangri in there. So they've got, pretty good, you could say they've got more national team players than anybody in the club, in the league, Subhashish Bose, etc. So there's no reason why they won't be contenders. It's just that it's high risk football the way they play at times, because they're so expansive, and some of the more pragmatic teams can try and pick them apart. But I think over the longer course of the season, they will be top two is what I'd predicted all season, and I think they should be there as well.
And I also like Juan's new celebration of biting his t-shirt, and I don't know, happiness or frustration, whatever it may be. But it is quite unique, and kudos to him for finding that. I just want to ask about two teams together, Goa and Odisha.
Yeah,
Odisha looks to be slightly on the up. Goa has not really convinced me. New coach, a lot of new players. They're all right. They're worth watching the games, but maybe not there yet.
I think, but that's where I think time's important. I think in a short league, coaches need time. Gambao's had effectively this is Gambao's third season with the team. So 2 seasons where it didn't succeed. I think he started with them. I think he went about 9 or 10, or I think for the first 11 games he didn't get a win, but the management stuck with him, and I think that helps. You stick with coaches, then they can impose their philosophy. They get the players that they. So I think this time he's got the kind of foreign players that he wanted. Got the balance, which probably was missing the last couple of times he was associated with the club, and starting to see a bit more consistency in the way they perform as well. When on the flip side, if you look at FC Goa, the team's been consistent and been there for a while. Like you've got Edu, I think it's the 5th season. You've got Indian players who've been there just as long or longer, and but the coach is new, so I think he'll need time as well. I felt their preseason was a little bit undercooked, but they got the results in the beginning. I mean, but results sometimes can gloss over what works needed to be done. I thought early on when they beat East Bengal with that last gasp goal, probably weren't deserving of all 3 points that day. So it's going to come back at some point. But I think what's promising is I think Noah looks a very good signing. And when they have their full strength team with the likes of Fares back fit, I think Mark Valiente back fit, I think they'll be a tough prospect.
Yes.
Credit to him. He's gone with an all-Indian back four at times. He's gone with it, so he's trying to have a go. He's trying to develop his players. So I think you got to give him credit for that. I think they're trying to go about things in the right way and build for the future. If they continue to do this thing, maybe short term you're going to feel results won't go your way, but longer term, I think it bodes well for them with the kind of players that they can keep at the club for a while.
Absolutely. I just wanted to ask about the next three teams together. Chennai and Northeast and Jamshedpur. Jamshedpur has had a tremendous fall from what they were last year. The level difference is insane. Northeast United FC probably there and thereabouts where you would think. And Chennai, I never have any idea what Chennai is going to do because every year they sort of restart and hit the reset button and start again. And they have a history of turning up in the second half of the season also. So, how do you look at these teams? I've enjoyed watching them, to be fair, other than Jamshedpur, the other two. I do enjoy watching them.
Yeah, I think, look, if you start with Jamshedpur, I think it was always going to be tough to match what they achieved last year, the run of results they went on. And it's pretty much the same squad. They've actually got Farouk as an addition, who was out injured last year, but it just shows what a big impact Owen Coyle was. I mean, his motivational skills and man management, and just the way he had those boys performing possibly above expectation and above what one would expect of that kind of that squad and that group of players. But they're still a tough team to beat. They're no means I'd put them in the bracket of a Northeast United. Northeast are just for lack of a better word, a poor club. And I mean, overall, the way it's set up, they don't go after the top players in the league in terms of Indian players. But one positive is they always manage to unearth some good foreign players. Their recruitment in that respect is very good. But I think over the course of a longer season, and as it's getting longer, less foreign players in the league, you have to have a half decent core of Indian players, and they by a lot of people's admissions, even internally within the club, they'd say that their strength and depth, especially on the Indian side of it, it just isn't there. And that's what's going to come back to haunt them throughout the course of the season, I think. The last of the three that you mentioned, it's a conundrum with Chennai. I saw them at the start, met the coach. I think he's terrific. I think he's someone who's going to get a lot out of that group of players. And I think because he's recruited well in terms of his foreign players. But pre-season, I was looking at the Durand Cup, looking at them thinking, I wouldn't have made them my contenders for top 6. But then just towards the end of it, they beat Odisha 5-1, I think, in a pre-season game. And you think there's something about them when, Karikari is playing, when Vafa's at the back, when Duke's in midfield. They've got a pretty strong spine. But I think where they're lacking, again, is that sort of Indian quota, is you don't have a goalkeeper that's top level and you can rely on in Devjit at the moment. I think centre-backs, when they've had to put Duke in from midfield and weaken their midfield and play him at the back because they just can't trust the Indian defenders, central defensive options that they have. And so it has a knock-on effect. So when they're at full strength, I think they can beat a lot of teams because they're so well coached. I think the coach knows how to get the best out of those resources, and you can tweak his systems and to play in a manner which will get results. And I think that the way they beat ATK Mohun Bagan in Kolkata was a perfect example of that. And the way they started off against Mumbai the other day. So unless they can go in the Jan window and make reinforcements on the Indian side, I think they're just going to be that sort of win-loss kind of team where they won't be consistently able to put in 4 or 5 good results because they just don't have the strength and depth when the games start coming in thick and fast, as they say.
I guess maybe I'm hearing rumblings of change of ownerships in Northeast, or they are rather interested in a change of ownership in Northeast. But you never hear if this is true, right?
Been hearing that for a while now. I mean,
Yeah.
I think it's and there's a few of those clubs that we mentioned where there's been rumblings about that. But until it happens, and look, I think is anyone going to come in and just suddenly wave a magic wand in the January window? Highly unlikely. It's these are longer drawn out processes, and that it doesn't really affect, I think, the current season. Yeah, it affects their recruitment. If they're on the market, possibly you think neither of them are going to go and spend big in January. So you've just got to get the best out of what's there. And if you look at both of them, I think there's not much, with the exception of Tapa and maybe one or two others, there isn't that longer term planning of signing players and you trust these young players, bring them through. And if you look at how they were a few years ago, Chennaians, the likes of when they signed the likes of Jerry's and Tapas, Bideshwars, I think even Bodos, etc. They had a longer term philosophy. They had some good young Indian talent in their ranks. And I think now I'm not sure what direction they're going in. There seems to be a lot of players, former Pylon Arrows players or former, people associated with certain people at the club that have come in there. So it's not really a clear direction of which way they're going.
Last thing on ISL, Constantine seems like at the very least he's made that team tough to beat. Not unbeatable, but tough to beat.
Yeah. I've said it before. I've said it. I think you and I are the few people who've always consistently said, the guy will get results.
I was not convinced that he was made for ISL. I'm still not convinced, but his team is tough to beat. That's always been the case. Yeah.
Look, coaching is coaching. You're coaching with national teams. You're coaching with club teams. The advantage is you'll actually get more time. Whenever your national team coaches, the biggest complaint is always, we don't get time with the players. We don't get time. And now, given time, look, his philosophy is not going to change. He plays a certain way, and he likes his teams to play a certain way. And I think he's getting results. And a lot of people, whatever, there's a lot of detractors. So I think he's got a tougher job than anyone. Any coach coming into East Bengal is tough over the years. And the past 2 or 3 have gotten away with it because it was a bubble season. But to be in Kolkata with a team that's probably not, East Bengal fan, you're expecting your team to be challenging for titles, challenging for silverware. You can't have that minnows tag with you from a fan's expectation. But the reality in the ISL is over the last couple of years, you would have tagged them as minnows because of how late they keep going into the market. So I think given that, he's done a terrific job. And I think he will be one of those teams that a lot of people don't want to face because it's going to be tough to get points off of them. And especially, I think, and I said it before, I said it when I think after the game against Goa where they were unlucky, if he gets certain things right, they're going to be one of the tougher teams to beat, especially at Salt Lake.
Yeah. Now let's shift gear. I-League has just started finally after a lot of to and froing and postponing and stuff like that. Who's your favorites to win the league? Because it's a promotion this year. I mean, I'm
Is
still
it?
not absolutely convinced, but it's a promotion this year nonetheless, at least on paper.
Well, I think that the best way to describe it is, I wouldn't say the door's open for promotion, but the door's unlocked.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
So
You still have to
that's
kick it
the
open.
we don't know if it actually opens. It's just the lock's been open. So that's the test will be when it actually at the end of the season. I think I managed to catch a couple of games. I caught Churchill Brothers against Rajasthan at
Goa.
Bambam, yeah, and it was great that there's actually crowds at the game, good stadium, and pretty good atmosphere. I was surprised. I think Rajasthan, having seen, I saw them qualify in the second division a few years ago.
Yes. Yeah, we were there. I
Yeah,
snuck
we
in.
thought this. And we said this team's going to struggle a bit in the I-League, and they've gone from strength to strength, and that's what I love about the I-League. It's these teams that come out of relatively nowhere. Likes of Chennai City FC. You look at, for that matter, it started even with, you could say, Bengaluru were one of them. A direct entry team come in and then win, dominate the landscape for a little bit. Chennai City did that. Minerva to an extent. And now I think Rajasthan, Gokulam obviously, and Rajasthan's the new entrant in that. Yeah, but I think Aizaul's slightly different because they've been around
Okay, so
football for a long time, and they've been in the Mizo Premier League. I mean, these are teams that just didn't exist. I mean, there was no such thing as a Chennai City. Chennai City FC weren't exactly consistently doing well in the Chennai League. It was direct entry. Let's go. Let's give this a shot. Similarly with Gokulam. Similarly with, Ranjit obviously had a good youth setup, but I think that's what's really, really good to see, because they've gone out and shown that there are a lot of good young Indian players out there. You just have to know where to look, scratch the surface, get a good coach, and they've got a good coach in Kundu over there, and he's developing good young Indian players. So I think that's what's the beauty about the I-League, is that you can see it's still the same league where anyone can beat anyone. Churchill at home should have been banker for Churchill now. And then you had that marquee clash with Gokulam and Mohammedan Sporting. So those two, I think, are the big heavyweights. Those two are the ones that'll possibly be there at the end of the season as the ones who are going to try and kick the door down. And I think either of them will be massive. I think it'll be great for Indian football. If you have Mohammedan Sporting with all their legacy, be huge value add if they can just figure out how to get them where they're going to play, etc. And Gokulam, I think we know your allegiance is there. That would be genuinely exactly. So that'd be, even I'm pretty probably, you could say, close to the colors, club colors. But I mean, if you look at, you can imagine that's a genuine derby. There won't have to be any of this making up of this derby, that derby. That would be a real treat to go and watch. If it's
they're playing in Manjeri also, I think, right? A couple of the games.
That's a fantastic.
Amazing. Yeah, it's great.
You wouldn't be able to play that, but they wouldn't be able to play Blasters at Manjeri, because I think the road leading up to that, it would just be impossible to get in and out of that stadium. Just the whole of Manjeri would be chock-a-block then.
Yeah.
So
But yeah, it looks like an exciting I-League. Hopefully we'll see some good football, because the last couple of years, some of the teams just not played good football.
Yeah, but I think that's the shame about that is because we don't get. Cause I've been, watching the I League on whatever streaming platforms or whatever telecasts
Or
that they play.
rather, not
But when you,
watching and hearing apologies why it's not streaming.
yeah, or watching French football. But when you actually go to the stadium, it's pretty good quality. Like what Churchill and Rajasthan had at the stadium, it was actually enjoyable, and there's some good qualities of the play, and I think that's a good thing. No bubbles now. You can actually get to these games, and that makes a big difference. I think you will see a lot of because there's some decent footballers in that league. Yeah.
It's always I-League is the one that unearths a lot of the guys. So hopefully they'll continue to do that. And yeah, so your pick is Mohammedan and Gokula. Who do you think are going to
Yeah, I
be?
think it's just from preseason form, looking at the squad strength. I think it has to be between those two, and like consistency. Look, they've retained a lot of the players. One of them has retained the coach, but I think Gokulam just got some kind of magic formula. They're just very, very good at doing things well at the moment, both on and off the field. So I think in an ideal situation, I'd like them to qualify.
Let's hope they can do it. So, Prad, thanks a lot for making the time. I know we've been trying to do this for a while, and I've been sort of flaking out because of World Cup and stuff like that. And yeah, glad we are able to get this done early in the morning.
It's a pleasure, and then we'll catch up. I think hopefully in a month's time. By then we'll have hopefully the second division to talk about as well. So we
Absolutely,
started
yeah,
it with the ISL. Now we've got the I League. Hopefully, the wait for all the football will end by then.
absolutely. And
All right.
thanks a lot, Brad. All the best and enjoy.
Cheers, mate. See you soon.